childhood, growing and developing years of a person, this is meant to be a highly important time to create morals, fundamentals, and skills necessary to be a success. Instead, the trauma CPS creates in these young minds set a path of disaster, and statistics prove it. In nearly 90% of their cases, the trauma is unnecessary. Time is the one thing that can never be given back. CPS takes away moments in life that can't be replaced. The time just keeps going, doesn't mean a thing anymore. They left as children, and it's up to them when they come home if they know who you are. Each second away is time you will never get back and keep getting older.
Studies are leading towards incarceration.
Now comes the honorable judge in the halls of justice, where the Constitution will hold strong, and your rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness will trample CPS for all they have done to your child.
The truth and corruption that's revealed to you is enough to make you sick. This is not America we were sold.
Children are being taken from families at the rate of one a minute. It needs to be stopped.
Psalm 127:3. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him. This suggests children are a precious gift from God to be valued and cared for.
In the United States, a child a minute is taken into DHS, CPS, and so on custody. The reality is their picks are already selected, you just don't know it. Being perfect no longer matters. It's what the adopting families are looking for.
Who is it stealing the children, you ask?
From caseworker to the White House, the buck stops at all levels, just not where it is supposed to be. The services your family needs, we the people have paid for to ensure your reunification. Title IV says, reunify at all costs. United, we stand means nothing to us when it comes to family values.
I don't know what the hell happened here or what's going on. I apologize for this. I don't know what even is going on right now. So I apologize for that opening. It was crap. Really disappointed in that. So for that. And now we have this damn echo back. For what? What is going on here? Melissa, I'm going to let you in to do these intros. I'm going to step out. I got to reset.
Okay.
You got this, Melissa? Thank you.
Yeah, I got it. All right. Well, welcome to tonight's show of CPS Hunting Justice. Pretty much tonight we're gonna talk to a few return guests. One is Jeff. He's our special guest who is running for office to hopefully bring back some constitutional rights as a hopefully newly elected sheriff soon. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on so he can start his introductions, and then we'll bring in the rest of the gang. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
So what's your updates? How's Michigan acting?
It's acting like it always is. You know, just stealing some kids and making money off of them, and then saying that they're trying to help. Had court yesterday.
Yeah.
And the one caseworker, she tried to set it for 91 days out, and the judge said, "No, that ain't happening." Said, "We're gonna set it for
a review hearing."
Yeah. Because, see, my daughter done told them all she wants to come home. She's already packed up all her clothes. She has already got the date figured out when she wants to do this. And, you know, they've had her almost 4 years now. And is a new judge, and she's actually listening to my daughter and listening to some smarter people than the people that, like the GL and his caseworker. And so things are looking up there.
Right.
But,
How old is your daughter?
On the August the 18th, she'll be 12. And they took her when
Okay.
she was 8. Took her on her
Well-
birthday.
Ooh. Yeah, that's in Michigan, my kids were removed the day before Thanksgiving, so.
Just as bad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Their holidays are all ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never have a Thanksgiving that I don't wonder, what if? What if I would have
Yep.
known my rights? What if the world would have been different? What if I wasn't married to a doctor who was a self-centered chauvinist,
What if I had went to Hawaii for the holidays?
Right, yeah. And realistically, the what ifs, I think, are what eat most parents up on these cases.
Yep. So now though, they're wondering, what if Jeff wins? What is Jeff gonna do to me? Because there's already a list, and I've done let them all know who I'm coming after.
Right.
And I'm letting them all know that I'm talking to everybody in Cass County and asking everybody for their evidence and information, that proves everything that they've done to other people. And
Right.
I'm telling everybody, you get me the evidence and I'll go after them too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and bring Herbert and Tiff in. So after you get your daughter returned, are you going to I know you're going for your sheriff's seat, which, like I say, hopefully the soon-to-be newly elected sheriff. Are you going to go after them in the U.S. District Court and maybe go after them federally? Not them think that, you just got lucky, but maybe you to drive home the fact that you beat them fair and square and they will pay for what they do.
well, when you become sheriff, you get to appoint deputies. So I'm going to appoint special deputies. I want at least 2 doctors. I want at least 2 attorneys. I want at least 2 therapists that I know I trust and that can never be bought off by CPS. And then I'm going to appoint ex-officers who didn't like the corruption and they got out of it. And then their only jobs will be to follow up on CPS to make sure they're doing everything right. When they find them doing something wrong, to write up the report and take it to the Michigan Attorney General for charges. Because you're never going to get charges brought against them in the county that they're working in. That's never
Right.
going to work. But these officers, their job will also be, because my complaints, I can't get the state police or the village or the county or the FBI to take a report. So their job will also be, if any state worker violates anybody, or you have the evidence where they committed perjury and has destroyed something in your life, your kid's life, or in your family's life, they will investigate it, and when they find the wrongdoing, they will take it to the Michigan Attorney General for charges. Sooner or later, Michigan Attorney General will get tired of it. If they don't want to do something at first, I'll just keep sending them. I got nothing but time. Until God takes me off this earth, I have nothing but time.
Well, Jeff, so How do you think you're going to be able to get the Attorney General's office to pick sides when they are the attorney for the department at a state level?
Because, well, all I can do is try. When the officers go there with, that's why I want attorneys, because the attorneys will know how to write the thing up better than what an officer will. The attorneys
If I
will
was
know.
you, I might seek disbarred attorneys who lost their license for attacking the system.
That's not a bad idea.
Because they have something to prove, and they lost their license for making the right fight. Because what I find with most attorneys is their hands always stuck out. They talk a great game. They are professional liars, and not much really follows.
Right.
You know,
Melissa,
and if they have a bar card, their first sworn duty is to the oath of the bar and the court. I mean, it's in the jurisprudence secundum book. It says right in it that their first obligation is to the court, period, bar none.
That's why it doesn't matter, Melissa, if they court appointed or you paying them. I mean, we paid $30,000 for my son's attorney, and they still railroaded my son. So it doesn't matter if the state hold their license. A lot of times they go against their clients for the state. So the state put pressure on them, and the judges and everything. It's all corruption and conspiracy and fraud in 1983. But under the color of law, they all in cahoots with each other. You know, kidnap people, kids for money from the government. So they're not focused on the best of the child law according to the laws. They focus on how many kids they can get in the system to get money from the government. So the attorneys is all in cahoots because everybody's getting money for the child. If the child is adopted out, the money continues to the 18th birthday. If the child continues to go to college, it continues to their 24th birthday. So all the people that's been adopted out, and the children that lied to get money, caseworkers, the judges, the attorneys, everybody's getting money for the child from the government for adopting the child out. So it's about, the Safe Family. Hillary and Bill Clinton passed the Safe Adoption Family Act back when they were in office. That got the government involved, but it had already been ruled on in the court of law, but the government couldn't get in the business of us parents and our children. But like I said before, I'm in training for my rights class with children rights right now, and we have class on Friday, and we learn about the laws and the rights and stuff of children now. I'm already trained in universal rights in the Constitution, but we need to make sure that the child rights is protected at all costs. So Jeff, what I want to say to you, now your daughter is at the age where she can go to court. She's going to be 12 this year. So we're going to pray that this be over soon. But like I say, my case took almost 6 years, and I was innocent. But it took almost 6 years to fight the system. So we're going to pray that it don't take that long for you guys fighting the system for your children like it took me. That's why I stand up for our rights in the Congress. I write letters to the president. The state officials are working on a letter right now to go to the Biden and Trump administration and some other more people, some powerful people. So anyway, we need to make sure that we are supporting each other, we checking on each other, because they use scare tactics. They harass you, they threaten you, they do. CPS and the police do all these intimidation. They do all these threats and stuff to you to make you sign your rights away to your children. Don't never sign nothing with CPS. I had attorneys. I had legal shit attorneys when my kids were kidnapped by the police at CPS in 2009, between 2006 and 2009. And they wouldn't even let me call my attorneys. But when I called my attorneys told me don't sign nothing with them if I didn't abuse my kids. And so they're making people sign the safety plan. That gets them to open up a case and to
right. And that's the thing. The safety plan is where it all begins. And that's the number one thing that needs to happen is that everybody needs to realize that safety plan, that's their deal with the devil. That's where everything starts. That's where everything causes all of this hate and discontent. It causes them the access to steal your kids. So here's the question, Jeff, what are you going to do to let the people, we can't hear you, bub. You're muted out, pal.
I didn't sign the safety plan.
Right. Well, they have their ways that they weasel around it. In most cases, and not hypothetically, but because they will find their ways around it, they'll go to the courts and this. But in theory, and what everybody says is that safety plan is that you sign the contract with them. Neither did I sign a safety plan, but I refused to do it. However, they found their ways to come around, and then they go to court and they find you guilty of this, and this, and they get you suckered in. But the initiative starts with that safety plan. They even get bonuses based on that. So what are you going to do?
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Because my question was, what's your plan to get them to either get people educated, one, about the safety plan, or two, stop the safety plan?
Well, now that one is a good question. I have no clue.
It sounds like after he gets elected, he needs to start holding some like town hall meetings, informing people of their rights.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be a gigantic learning curve, just like any other thing you jump into. You know, life's a weird thing, and you know, as long as I'm going into it the way I am, and I'm going to just follow the Constitution, I don't see where I can go wrong. I'm learning a lot of things, you know, like when you deputize these special deputies, you don't want them to be certified by the state. That's why I want ex-officers, ones that I know we're good, ones I know I can trust, and they will have no allegiance to nobody, just the people and the children. That's it.
Right. That's like you saying about, you were talking to me earlier. I don't know if when I was out, if I missed it, but you're talking about cleaning up the swamp, you know, getting rid of those people, doing an audit of that. What about, let's talk about this audit that you're talking about.
Yeah. You know, I don't know exactly how big of an audit I can get them to do, but I want them to do one on DHS CPS. Get all their records to prove that they allowed this person for at least 15 years that I know of to impersonate a doctor. He also worked for CPS for 20 years, and he never even had a social worker's license. You know, so they had to have known all this stuff. And then the court and the prosecution, they knew the man never had a license. Otherwise, they would be asking for it. But he was willing to do everything that they asked. So in that audit, I want him to pull up every time that he's been there, every time he's seen a kid, every time the prosecution had him come in, and that just shows all this fraud. You know, and then maybe we can start to get rid of it. And this new judge, she's a pretty smart woman. She's not listening to these people. At least in my case, she's not. She's doing the right thing. Maybe can find a way to help get her some training to where, you know, if the people are saying this did not happen, here's my evidence, maybe she will stand up and ask to see it. Maybe she'll get rid of some of these people.
Right. Well, I mean, would it be something to say that you could maybe unite with these other sheriffs, units, and then maybe this is something that you can build on with them, is a CPS education and CPS stopping and a CPS, you know, whatever? Because is it too much to say that these sheriff's units aren't aware of what's going on either, or the laws or the rules or the regulations?
Well, you know, like that officer that was here when they came to kidnap my little girl. A couple months later, I seen him downtown, and I confronted him. I'm like, look, I've been doing a little investigation stuff here. I said, by what I've found out is you absolutely had the power to tell the judge she's not going to do a warrant to remove this child until you actually do an investigation. The man, he was honest with me. He said, you have been doing some investigation. You're right. I did have that power. I could have told the judge before she did the warrant, I'm going to do an investigation. I'm going to find out what the truth is. But he didn't do it. And you know, the sad thing is, a second in command over DHS got a 13-year-old raped by her biological father. When they found out that they made a mistake, that's when, and I got the paperwork, it says 12 days before they removed my daughter, there's absolutely no issues. House clean, plenty of food. She's dressed appropriately. I mean, she was showing them the garden that we had planted because we'd always grow a bunch of pumpkins so that she could take them to school, so that the kids at school that didn't have enough money, you know, they can get a free pumpkin. You know, and it would give them something fun to do at school too. You know, they could paint them and do whatever. And,
but have a good day with them.
12 days later, they came and took her. That's where the conspiring became, you know.
I was building a fence, you know, and they came, no problems at all. Building a fence with my daughter, and they came and took her. It's ridiculous.
Yep, it's absolutely ridiculous. So
you're making some headway with your case, though, right? You're getting 4 more hours a week or something.
Oh, we're up to 8 hours now.
Oh wow, that's awesome, man. Now you should be almost at overnights.
Well, we got 2 more weeks at 8 hours, and then we're supposed to move to weekends. You know, as long as they don't go and throw some damn monkey wrench into the cod, you know. If they do that, then yeah. But the judge isn't playing their game. You know, like on the 2nd of the month, we had to go to court, and GL was going to try and strip my visits. And the judge just kind of started to unload on her. Like, why are we here? What I want to know is, how is Bella doing? Is her visits going good? And, you know, everybody's like, yeah, Bella's happy. And then all of a sudden, the GL realized she's getting ready to get her badonkadonk tore up by the judge.
Oof.
And so all of a sudden she goes, well, what I want is my name off. I don't want to be in control of this stuff no more. I'm not a therapist. The judge says, well, is that what this, oh shit. Basically, you know, I can't think of the word, but why we're in court. And she goes, well, no. She goes, well, did you talk to anybody about it? Well, no. I'm doing it right now. And so then my attorney, he goes, well, I'm perfectly fine if she wants out of it. You know, we're right here in court. All you got to do is order it. And she goes, well, I'm looking at this, and it looks pretty good, but I don't see no signatures. And my attorney holds up the one he's got. He's like, here's one that everybody has signed except the GL. He said, and she's had this since February the 22nd. He said, but she's held everything up. And the judge said, ain't nobody going nowhere today. We are going to stay in court until this is figured out and everybody signs it. She goes, I just want my name off. I don't want to be in control of anything no more. And judge says, well, that's fine. Get this stuff signed. So, everything is going good now. Finally.
Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. I mean, it's just the fact that you get to see her for that amount of time. Some people aren't even seeing their kids that much in a month or 2 months even.
Well,
So
I went 2 years without seeing her at all or talking to her.
Right. Now, how was that reunification with her when you guys got to see her after you hadn't seen her or talked to her in 2 years?
Well, at first it was a little touch and go, because she was confused. All she's wanted to do the whole time is come home, but
right.
The therapist actually asked her if anybody had ever told her that she wasn't coming home. And she goes, yeah, a couple years back ago, they told me, you're probably not going to go home. So instead of trying to bring her home, they were getting her ready to be adopted before we were even there,
Yep. That's what they do, too. That's what they do. Brainwash them. Push that bond away.
That's the problem. My daughter has got my brain, and you ain't brainwashing her. You might pull the wool over her eye a little bit, but she'll catch it and push that shit right back off, and then she'll start telling you about it. Because I've taught her, don't ever keep your mouth shut. You stand up for yourself.
I would like to say something that I wrote to Washington, D.C. This is my nonprofit organization, iStop. And they had me to do a problem and solution of what I saw the problem was in the system and what I feel that how we can rectify the system. So this is iStop copyright of my nonprofit organization. So it says in here, to support video cameras being installed in every foster home or agency, in support of parental rights being protected before they sign a CPS safety plan under Title for Emergency Assistance from the government. So I stopped the attorneys being present to explain to parents what they're signing before signing the CPS safety plan, applying for Title for Emergency Assistance. It says, in support of protecting children's rights in foster care under the Texas Rule of Civil Procedure, a child 12 years or older have the right to pick and choose who they want to live with, and the judge of the said court is supposed to honor their decision. Like I was saying to you, Jeff, she's going to be 12. Make sure she's going to court to talk to the judge, because she's at that age now she can talk to the judge herself. And she don't need the CPS lying or trying to advocate for her. She can advocate for herself, your daughter, okay? So that's the law. Then it says on the other side, CPS making the children, parents, and families and victim kids make sure they know their rights and know what they are signing with a legal representation present before family sign their rights away, doing a mercy removal before signing the CPS form, and their parental rights always. This will create more jobs in today's society. The problem, CPS is placing children in the system on medication, mental health institutions against the children, parents, and family will of rights. The solution, before CPS places a child on medication or mental hospital, the parent and family or victim can must sign consent, not CPS. So there's a problem and solution that I have wrote to Washington, D.C. about what I see. I also advocated for them to change putting your name on the central registry if you have an open CPS case. What they were doing was anybody that had an open CPS case, they would put you instantly on the centralized intake registry to say that you abuse your kids, right? But if you didn't get charged criminally in criminal court, your name shouldn't go on the registry because, see, abuse and neglect is a crime, punishable by law, 10 years or more prison time, felony, according to the misdemeanor, according to the said state. That is the law across 52 states. It is a crime. So if you don't need to go to, if the person actually really abused their kids, they're supposed to go to a criminal court of law, not a civil court of law, not a CPS case, if they actually abuse their kids. But anyway, that's all I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I got paperwork also from the Marine that did the investigation that said there's absolutely no preponderance of evidence to prove any of this bullshit, and that we should not be put on no registry. But after they got the kid raped, by her dad, all of a sudden they come and kidnap my daughter and then put us on a registry. Even though I have the actual report from CPS saying there's no preponderance of evidence to prove anything and they should not be put on here. They took her and put us on there.
Right, and I advocated for that because I stay abreast of, I'm part of different organizations where we stay abreast of the laws that's been passed. And I say to say that, so I advocated for them not to be putting parents on the registry just prematurely, just putting them on there when they haven't been found guilty of a crime, okay? So that's wrong because that stops people from getting jobs and stuff. You know, working with different areas, you can't have a criminal background working around children and different stuff like that. So it stops people from getting jobs when they put you on the registry prematurely, meaning that if you haven't been criminally charged with a case of abuse and neglect criminally, so that's a problem too in the system.
So I want you to hear this. Ready for this one?
Yeah.
This is my notice of substantion or indication. The Department of Health and Human Services has looked into reports that you have abused or neglected a child. This assessment has resulted in the decision that you did abuse or neglect a child. It may be difficult to see in writing very specific information about the facts that led to this decision.
Right. See, what they're doing, Jeff, not Jeff, but what's your name? Darren. What they're doing, Darren, is they're having people, parents or anybody that's associated with the child sign that safety plan. If you did not abuse your child in this investigation, it's supposed to do a 30-day investigation. They have 30 days to do the investigation. If they don't do a thorough investigation, then
but what my point was, is did you hear what they said?
Huh?
Did you hear what I said when I read that? Let me reread this.
Yeah, say it again.
It says, it may be difficult to see in writing very specific information about the facts that led to this decision.
Right.
That means that whatever I did was either so atrocious, there's no words to the English language, or they don't have shit. Now, when I reported this, when I asked the director about this, or the regional manager, she said that meant that my eyes were going to be full of water when I was reading that. So I wouldn't, because I would be so upset. That's what that meant. That's what she said that meant. So see, they don't have any evidence on any of us for abuse and neglect, because you know why? We aren't abusing or neglecting anybody. That's the thing. They're coming up with this podunk stuff to come up and nail us to the wall with these stupid rhetoric, stupid BS that doesn't mean anything. Now I have in my drawer right here the oversight committees, the State of Maine's Oversight Committee report. All right. Now let me read this to you guys. Now, the group of overseers is made up of a group of legislators, which are on the legislative board for the Department of Health and Human Services, right? So they did an oversight of that committee here in the state of Maine. Now, this here is what they say. Let me just find the right page. Sorry. I have it marked. Of course not. Now, this here is neglect. A caregiver not meeting basic needs and has refused assistance, not protecting the child from physical, emotional, or sexual harm by others. Truancy of children ages 7 through grade 6. Caregiver absence or abandonment or involving a child in criminal activity that involves danger or serious injury. What child abuse and neglect is not. Some situations may indicate that a family or a child needs community services or support, but do not meet the definition of child abuse or neglect. Examples include living in poverty, including lack of food, clothing or shelter that is not injurious to the child, accidental injuries, even if regular and reoccurring, parental prenatal substance use, physical or mental impairment of the parent, including substance use if it has little or no impact on the child, isolated incidents of domestic violence when the child was not present, or physical discipline like spanking as long as it does not cause bodily injury. Those are not neglect or abuse in this state. So I would love every person out here to put up in there on the chat here and tell me if what I just read, that's not abuse and neglect, if they were terminated or if they're investigated for one of these things. Because if these people,
Darren,
if our overseers can't get control of the laws that they're regulating and that they're coming out with their little minions here, then it's time for all of them to go home. These reports mean gold in each state.
well, Darren, in my case down here in Alabama, okay, as you know, they're holding my kids 2 years now. They're absolutely refusing to give them back, arguing failure to protect. But the indication letter that you read that said that your crimes were so horrible and grievous that you would bawl your way through it. Okay, how about my letter says that I'm not indicated of any harm and the case is closed?
Right.
And they're still holding my
It's the
kids.
same thing. There's no words to describe what I did, which was nothing. And you have no case. It's closed. So,
Right, but they still have my kids. So, I
right.
mean,
So how many people that are watching this are in this same situation?
Right
This is what
now.
I wonder. Like, how many people are in here, whether you sign a safety plan or not, how many people did not do a damn thing to their child and they're here now? Because, Jeff, this is the stuff. This is the stuff that you need to come in there cocked and barreled and ready to go, because they're holding us criminally responsible, mentally and physically responsible for an abuse or neglect charge that isn't there.
Right.
That is fraud.
But on the other hand, they're making laws for kids in school that they can be 10 years old and be having sex, and the school knows about it, and the school can't tell you. And the kid can go get an abortion and nobody can tell you. You have no say. Now,
Right.
I would say that's neglect. That's abuse from the state to your child, not from you to your child. They'll tell you, you can whip your kid's butt. But the minute you whip your kid's butt, they say, you're an abusive person. You're violent. You beat your kids. No, I didn't beat my kids. They needed a butt whipping. They got a butt whipping. They didn't get a branch. They didn't get a lawnmower. They got a hand across their behind. That's not abusive.
Right. That's not abuse.
Well, the thing is that, hold on, somebody. Hold on, I gotta put this aside.
Turn on the news, you'll see what happens to these little fucking brats that they don't get their asses whipped and they get everything gave to them. They end up sticking up for terrorists and destroying buildings
honestly,
and burning
Jeff,
shit down.
Down here in my area, my daughter was acting out pretty profusely, and they turned around and the worker actually told me, take her cell phone, beat her ass, don't leave any bruises. That's exactly what she deserves for what she's trying to do.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
And in the state of Michigan, if you are put on the central registry, and this is something that Tiffany should have known if she's studying advocacy in Michigan. If you've been put on the central registry in the state of Michigan and you have not received notice of it within 21 days of being put on the registry, there is a loophole where your ability to be removed is automatically granted through the appeal process.
So if they don't notify you that they put you on that thing, on the list, then you automatically
You have an
removed, or you still have to move forward for that.
Well, you have to file a notice requesting the appeal of it, but because they failed to make proper notice, it's been established so much in the courts, the appellate court, the federal courts, and everything else, that they don't even challenge it. If they don't notify you within the timeline, they're legally required to notify you because it's a violation of due process. When you appeal it, the appeals automatically are granted and it goes away.
Well, and also too, you have to have being put on the registry for a crime of abuse or neglect. You need to have an administration review of the charges so that it can get clear off your record, showing your evidence to prove that you did not abuse and neglect your child.
We're talking about not receiving notice that you've been put on the registry. Okay, you don't need to have a review. If they do not notify you, I believe it's 21 days. If they do not notify you within 21 days, it has been well established in the case law that it is a violation of due process. So when you appeal it, they automatically remove it like a bad credit report.
What happens what's the timeline to appeal it? Do you know that?
I think it's whenever you find out, because if you're not notified, it might be a year before you find out, or 2 years.
Oh, okay.
I was able to appeal mine after 5 years, and it was removed off my record.
Okay, well that's awesome. That's awesome, but that's awesome too to get it off your record. So that's not people getting jobs, so they don't need to be put on the registry.
Yeah, but Central Registry is not verified by employment unless you're doing a federal background check to work in the school district, to work in a daycare.
What is the name of the list? What is the list that they actually put you on if you're found
Child
guilty of
Abuse Central Registry is what it's called in most states.
Yeah, it's the Central Registry.
Now, is it a national thing, or is it a national
there's
thing?
also the Central Registry for sex offenders, so you got to be very specific in how you search it.
Is it a statewide or is it a national?
Okay, so it is a statewide registry, but all the states communicate. You would have to appeal your Maine's registration. I would have to appeal my Alabama registration. But there is sufficient case law that is argued violation of due process for a lot of people that have gotten jobs as teachers, social workers, or whatnot so many times that the case law is very well established. And if you are not notified in the state required statuted time, when you appeal it, the relief is automatically granted.
That's awesome, Melissa. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And that's an internal appeal. That is not a court appeal. If you are on the Central Registry in Michigan and you were never notified, you appeal it to the Central Registry in Michigan. If they see the violation of due process, it's removed just like a bad bill.
Okay. That's good stuff, Melissa. That's good stuff. You know your stuff, girlfriend. That's good.
All right, so here it goes. It says every state has procedures for maintaining records related to reports and investigations of child abuse and neglect. The term Central Registry is used by many states to refer to a centralized database for the statewide collection and maintenance of these records. The type of information contained in central registries and department records varies from state to state, but usually includes the child's name, address, name of the mother, father, or guardian, the name of any siblings, the nature of the harm to the child, the name of the alleged perpetrator, and the findings of any investigations. Although access to the information maintained in registries and department records also vary among states, this information is typically kept confidential and used only by child protection agencies to screen potential adoptive parents and resource parents, or sometimes for employment purposes. Child Protective Services must provide a written notice informing the alleged perpetrator that the agency has an open investigation of abuse or maltreatment. Following the investigation, CPS shall notify the alleged perpetrator in writing of the agency's determination and the individual's right to request an administrative hearing to contest the findings and have an inaccurate report amended or expunged from the registry. If you did not receive a notification but suspects that you could be subject to a child abuse investigation, You should contact the applicable state child abuse registry to inquire about the existence of a report. Understand your right to appeal the decision and request copies of your case file. The time frame in which a founded CPS determination can be appealed varies by state. So that's the overall gist of the generic version of all of these state's findings. So my question is I know it says for employment purposes. Does that mean that anybody that's seeking a job, or just if you're trying to seek a job with kids around?
So
because you're not allowed to be around kids, right? When you're substantiated.
If you want to go work in a school, okay, the school will give you a paper that you will take down to your CPS, and you will ask for their federal safe child background check. Okay, and they run they have a full federal fingerprint done on you, and then they run a central registry search on you. And then once you get your clearances from that, you take that back to your education place or wherever it is you're getting a job that you need that information. And then you turn it in saying that I'm clear, or I have this limited history, so on and so forth. But that's only for jobs that maintain greater than 50% of your time is with minor children and possibly unsupervised minor children.
Right. That's right, Melissa. That's true, because I worked for the school system for decades. For years, and I always had to get my fingerprint done every 2 years. The background check and everything, I had to do that every 2 years. Working with children and special needs children. So you're absolutely right, Kurt. That's correct, Melissa.
So I mean, there's just so many things that come of all of this stuff that you get. This isn't right that they draw you in to all of these situations that can point their finger, and they have, number one, losing your child is an implication for life that you have to deal with every day, day in and day out, and that in itself just isn't fair. But also the other implications, like not being able to be around kids, being on a list, doing this, doing that. Like you can never work at a school, you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, it's horrid. And if you haven't done anything wrong, then my God, this needs to be fixed. So I mean, Jeff, I don't know what the level of what the sheriff can do. I know that the sheriff's supposed to be the protectorate between us and government tyranny and corruption. I mean, hearing all of this stuff, what is it that you think that you're going to have to come up with, that you're able to do? Is it even something that is even in your sights?
Well, the only thing I can think of is, one, explain to DHS that these CPS caseworkers will not be going out without body cams. If it's good enough for a cop, it's good enough for them. And get my special deputies, and they'll be the only ones who can go with CPS, and they will be trained the right way to know the difference between abuse and neglect versus you make up a fucking story.
Right.
And they will report back to the judge and say, no, there's absolutely none, so you will not be doing no warrant to remove these children. That's the best way I have figured out, to be able to protect families and children. All these other things and these rules and regulations, I don't know what all I can do with them. All I can try to do is put something in place, a buffer between the children and the families and CPS.
Well, and Jeff, one thing that you should look at, more than the families that don't deserve the attack and assault of the department, what you might look at is the families that do need the involvement of the department You need to find a way to enforce that the department does their job to rehabilitate the local crackhead family who is letting their kids go hungry or beating their children. Because one of my buddies here, he's a chief of police, okay? And I was talking to him and we were discussing, down here they're called DHR, not DHHS. And we were discussing, and he says, I don't get it. He says that family lived there in that house with no power, no water, 6 kids, and they were starving. And no matter how many times I called the department, they would not do their damn job. So
probably related to them somehow.
No, these were traveling crackheads. That what it is the department does not want damaged kids. Even though they get paid more for a damaged kid, it is harder to adopt
them out
a damaged kid.
That's what it's
so
about.
More than protecting the families that don't deserve the abuse of the department, you need to also focus on making sure that the families that do need drug treatment, they do need alcohol treatment, counseling, domestic violence classes, food help.
I'll tell you this.
Enforce that they do their fucking job, because that's the biggest thing out there. I know children in Michigan right now that are being raped on a daily basis, that there's over 100 complaints called in. And the department won't get involved because they don't want to deal with the damaged goods.
Well, it's like they don't. Okay, really bad people belong in prison. But if you're a really bad person, they don't want your ass in prison, because what are you going to do more than likely? You're going to beat the snot out of them people in there working. You're going to raise all kinds of hell. You're not going to give a crap. They want people in prison that will follow their rules and their guidelines and not give them no trouble. It's kind of the same thing there. But I know firsthand, because I watched a person call CPS on a lady. Every night the crack dealer would show up at her house. Sometimes it'd be 3, 4 in the morning, the man out there beating on her door, hollering and screaming, "You owe me money for that crack. I want my money now." She would be drunk half the time. One day her kids was hiding outside under a bush. She told them, "Get the hell out of the house. Leave. Don't come back." So I know this person that actually called CPS. And I'm like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait and watch. Nobody ever showed up.
And they don't.
Melissa, you are absolutely right. The thing is that they want to adopt they want to take good mother children from them, because the kids be good and they're not.
Well, sure. Well-behaved kids sell for top dollar. It don't matter if they're black, blue, green, white, yellow, purple.
Right.
Race ain't a thing. A good child sells.
Yep, that's right. You're right, Melissa. That's what it's about.
But in the same, that parent that is abusing that kid, most likely that parent came out of an abusive home where CPS did not intervene. I had a parent's case that I was helping them fight the system, and the parents, the grandparents, had 20 or 30 cases that were deemed non-indicated of harm. Okay, well, next generation down. Now the parents of the kids have 20 to 30 cases, not indicated of harm. Their kids are 14, 12, and 6. And the 14-year-old's talking about burning down houses and wanting to kill people because the abuse has continued. Enforce that these motherfuckers that have the job to offer services do their goddamn job. Hold them legally accountable, because you know what? If it is abandonment of a parent to not step in and protect a child, I think the arguments, especially under the Michigan statutes of law of failure to protect, also extends to mandated reporters, such as the CPS agent. Because once, and this is a lot of it's based off of my knowledge of the medical field, okay? Because I'm medically licensed in Michigan, okay? So when I get to the hospital with a patient and I turn that patient over to the doctor, my liability is done. Now that doctor is liable to keep that person alive and healthy, okay? How is our CPS agents being held any less? When you call that worker next door and you said, hey, Martha Stewart across the street has her kid tied up in the backyard and hasn't fed him in 3 days, and they don't go out there, then they need to be held legally liable for failure to protect. Which, depending on the amount of abuse that is occurring, that may be a misdemeanor, that may be a felony. Why are these departments and workers not being held responsible to do their goddamn job?
That is the only one requirement that the caseworkers have to do by law. That is the one thing, and Malibu Dallas talks about that. The only thing that they have to do is respond to a call about abuse and neglect. That is the one thing that they are legally responsible for doing. So if they're not doing that, why are they able to hide behind all of this immunity? Because that is the one thing that they have to do, is respond to these calls. So if they are responding to these calls and they are seeing this abuse and neglect, then, and leaving these kids here, then they need to be in just as much trouble as they did if they didn't do it.
Well, and Darren, you remember the other night, me and you were internet researching it, and you found cases where caseworkers are being criminally charged for failing to protect because they were falsifying documents, closing out cases that they never even went and investigated, and the children were winding up dead. So if you get elected to sheriff and you get you some hopefully disbarred attorneys that believe in truth and justice versus well-paid attorneys who just believe in a paid vacation, hopefully you get them to research and use the laws to force these workers to protect the children the correct way, defend the innocent, and rehab the guilty.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they ought to be held accountable when they fail to do their job. But when they fail to do their job the correct way and they take a kid, they ought to still be held accountable.
Well,
I mean,
see, this
basically
is
you basically end up damned if you do, damned if you don't. But when you follow the actual rules and guidelines, I don't think you can make a mistake. That money is not to remove children. It is to help families.
It's to reunify. Correct.
Fix issues. Well, you don't have to reunify if you didn't take the child.
Well, correct. You're right. It's supposed to be, but what I'm saying is all the Title IV funding, 4E funding says no taking the child out of the home, and if there is, it's reunification.
Let me put it this way.
Right.
This therapist who was taught by this James Anthony Henry, she thought trauma, now what the actual book says, very smart people that wrote it, says trauma is if you tell your child you are going to beat them, kill them, and they actually believe that you're going to do that, then that's trauma. But for two parents to be in an argument, that is not trauma. Well, this woman don't know the difference. Now, my attorney, he's licensed in Indiana and in Michigan. He's also a licensed therapist and a licensed forensic therapist. And then he's also got he's a doctor of something. I don't know what. But he's a very smart man. And he held the book up and said, do you know what this book says inside? What does it say about trauma? Well, arguing is trauma. No, arguing is not trauma. It does not say in his book that arguing is trauma on anybody. And then the next time we went to court, that same therapist who was trained by this person who has never been a therapist, he's never been a doctor, but he claims to be, she wrote up a thing, and the judge dismissed everything that she said, this is not going into evidence because this person is not an advocator, and that's what she's trying to do, is advocate now. She's supposed to be a therapist, not an advocator. So she threw that all out. But the problem is, if these people are being taught the wrong way and the wrong things to do, you're never going to get anywhere. You know, that's there again. You look on TV right now, turn it on Fox, turn it on CNN, and you will see these dumbasses that don't know the difference between good people and terrorists. And then you got their professors that comes out here and talks their crap because they're defending terrorists. Granted, you know, I'm not saying what Israel's doing is completely on the up and up. I don't know. I'm not there. But I don't remember anybody telling us how to fight our war when we got attacked on 9/11. It was, we going in there and we're going to kill everybody that's in there. We don't give a shit. We're going to get these terrorists and we're going to end this. Israel has that same right.
I'm alive.
You know, but you can watch it on TV. Why these people are so stupid, why they can't do their job right, because they're not being trained right, because these colleges are just letting these basically fly by night people that, you know, they stay in the college forever, but they don't know what the hell they're teaching.
Right, they have no real life skills.
Right, and they need.
I mean, they ought to be tested on what they're teaching, and if they're not teaching these adult children the correct shit, they should not be in there teaching them.
Right.
Agreed.
Right, you're right, Jeff. You
Hey guys, we are definitely at our point here. I don't know what our thoughts are here, but Jeff, last words, my man.
Well, my last words is, anybody from Cass County listening, or if you know anybody in Cass County, let them know about me. I got to win in order to help these kids from being taken and help keep these families together. It's just ridiculous what these people are putting children and families through.
Amen to that. Melissa, last word for tonight.
I'm doing this.
Honestly, I would just say that families, you know, same I always say, families need to unite. People need to start work on making changes in their state legislation. And people need to find ways, you know, I like the way that Josie went about private prosecution in her area. And I wish it's something that we can do more of here.
Well,
you know,
we can. We just got to figure out how.
Right. Well, and all in due time, because in numbers we will prevail.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Tiffany, you got last words?
Yes. I'm gonna say what my sister Melissa said. United we stand, divided we fall. There's power in unity. My last words is to let's advocate, let's stand for justice, let's stand for what's right, and let's fight for our children and fight for any other children across this nation to be free from abuse and neglect, and from rape and harm and torture and everything that's going on in the system. Let's stand firm and fight this fight to the end, and never give in, never give out, and never give up.
Amen to that. Amen. Herbert, how about yourself, my friend?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay. I would like to say for people watching the show who are planning on having children, to adhere to what they're listening to try not to become part of the CPS system, to do everything they can with their children and their family to keep CPS away from their families and their children.
Amen to that.
If you bring your children up right, and you take care of your children right, you take care of yourselves, you'll never be part of the system. You'll never be part of CPS.
Yeah, that's a debatable thing. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tonight. We appreciate it. We'll catch you guys all on the tomorrow. Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.
All right, guys. As we always do, comes back to me here. Everybody's right, man. You know, we all just need to stick together in this, figure out a way that we are stay together, educate everybody, educate. Because the people that don't believe that this would ever happen to them are the ones that this is happening to, like myself, like a lot of you, you know. And before you know it, it is too late, because if they've come and they've inserted themselves in your lives, it is too late. So just educate those people around you. Tell them to give them a minute or two of your time. Just tell them to pay the freaking attention when CPS comes around, because they're there to hurt you, not harm you. I'm the CPS Punisher, and I'm getting out of here. Have a good night, guys. Thank you guys very much for being out here. Like and subscribe, and thank you all again, Harry, Brenda, all of you guys. Thank you very much for being out here and supporting us. Get y'all tomorrow.